The typical approach to competitive intelligence, it actually falls within two extremes. You have those that are very loose and those that are very structured. And somewhere in there, you have to decide what's going to work for you. So let me give you three different examples and then break that down a little bit more. Let's take an individual who owns a small business in a community that's fairly large, knowing that there's two competitors. She knows the products they sell, she knows what they offer internally, they know how they operate, they know some of the employees. She doesn't need a lot to be able to compete and win in her space. Now, sticking with that same marketing thing, let's take a look at someone like Pepsi. Pepsi does something completely different. They look at what's called throat share. They want to control the amount of fluid that's going down someone's throat. So their competitive intelligence has to be anybody globally who's developing a product that compete with that throat share in a market. You got to believe that their infrastructure to be able to find that out, the tools that they use, the people, the resources, is much more engaging or much larger. And then let's jump to the one that you might not have thought about, but the military. How much competitive intelligence goes on in the military? Systems, structures, techniques, tools, all these things from drones to submarines to scouts are all designed, created, input into a system to make sure that, because people's lives are at stake, that they've got the information they need to be able to make better decisions. That's a huge jump. The challenge is for you, what do you need to know? How are you going to build yours? Now, I will tell you that when you're looking at competitive intelligence, another huge aspect is what do you release, what do you protect? And there are many different approaches in that same vein. So an anti-competitive intelligence look, or a way in which to combat or to play in this game, is to have multiple tools at your arsenal. UGL Equus Corporation has 44,000 employees. They're in the industrial maintenance industry, facilities maintenance. They take care of buildings and they clean them for you and they put down the carpets for you, and they're a large organization. The CEO decided to play the game of a competitive intelligence much differently. What he does, and he has done, is he said, when we create a new product or service or something unique or a proprietary way, we're going to release it to the world immediately. We're going to tell everybody about it. And they write white papers and they show people what they've developed and the technology that went into it. Because what he's doing is two things. One, he's saying to the competition, this is who we are, and letting them know, because then they have to adjust. And he's also telling internally, we just came out with something, you better come up with something else too. So you're going to do a completely different, you have to come up with something and build that. So that's a very different approach. And I can tell you that I'm working with an organization, I was just in Milan with them. And they had said that they don't want to go into an area and be hot. Those are the terms. I don't want to be hot. I want to be warm, meaning they don't want to go in and make a splash, let everybody know they're there. They want to go in, they don't want to be the big trendy company, they're in retail. They don't want to be everybody going there because in 6 months they'll die. They want to be a steady, growing, and successful company. So they're using competitive intelligence instead of deciding to give their information away to be able to control what's happening in the marketplace. Now, how you adjust or how you look at your rivals' next moves is the process of competitive intelligence, because having proper data, having the right information allows you to make decisions better. And it stops you, obviously, from making inaccurate decisions. Just yesterday I was with a company, very large company, global in footprint, and during the meeting they were making statements about companies or industries, and at one point I said, how do you know this? And they said, we all know this. I said, how do you know it? Like, where's the data? And not a single person in the room had ever seen any of the data. They were making assumptions that that's the way the business is and that's the way it operates. And just an example, at one point they said XYZ are our competitors, and I said, no, they're not. They said, yes, they are. I said, no, they're not. And I described why not. And the CEO said, yeah, I guess they aren't. They're not really our competition. So they were looking at it differently. And what we're going to do is give you a tool to be able to eliminate some of those inaccurate assumptions. And what we're going to, in the methodology approach with that, is we're going to get away from just looking at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We're going to bring the information together and give you how you would compile that information so you don't make those mistakes, and how you analyze that information in a different light. The value is that you're going to end up with a position in the marketplace, or a position in your organization, or a position whether you're part of a union or an office or an association, operating a business, it doesn't matter. You're going to be able to use the tools better. And I'd like to end this one section with a quote from Sun Tzu that I think summarizes what this chapter is going to help bring to the table when it comes to outwardly looking. He says, Sun Tzu in The Art of War, so it is said that you know your enemies, so it is said, if you know your enemies and know yourself, you can win 100 battles without a single loss. If you know yourself but not your opponent, you may win or may lose. If you know neither yourself nor your enemy, you will always endanger yourself. So with that said, we're going to be giving you pieces of tools to move you along progressively to understand competitive intelligence, or the process of watching competition.